Looks like Eggman escaped into the city.
Oh man, is he like running into New York just trying to hide out amongst the crowd?
Eggman!
Eggman! So anyway, I should introduce the show for real. Welcome back everyone to Venus DeBilo's Missing Arms. So, I want to talk about, the status of the show, because recently Nick came out with a little update video with the Serenade of Caffeine show cast and crew, and I want to kind of echo some of the sentiments that he expressed in that video and kind of relate them to this show. So, in the time since playing this, well, first things first, let me say that actually, crazy little fun fact for you while my phone goes off in the background. This particular episode of Sonic Heroes has been recorded 2 months since the last 2 episodes of Sonic Heroes. Those were recorded back in June, and this one was recorded earlier this month in August. And so much has happened in that time frame. It's hard to believe. We wrapped up the SpongeBob playthrough. We played through Super Mario Bros. So the Mario Marathon is still on its way. And, I want to also thank, they said this in their little update video, I want to say it as well in mine. Thank you to the people who've been watching the Battle for Bikini Bottom playthrough and really enjoying it. The ones who are liking the highlight reel of all the glitches. That was very, very special to Nick and to me and to everyone involved in the production of that series. Certainly it meant a lot to me that the SpongeBob playthrough was connecting with so many people, because a lot of hard work goes into making that show. What was scheduling for Nick and Rob to show up, and then getting all the mics and the game capture all working correctly, and the many, many hours that go into editing. So when you, and we liked it too, as it was coming out, I remember telling Rob and Nick, I'm like, I really think this is good quality content. And so the fact that you guys felt the same way really, really means so much to us. I don't think you can really know how much it means. And so I wanted to thank you all for the support you've been showing that. And I wanted to talk about sort of, I don't know, this is stuff that has been going on, but the thing with the gaming weekend too is that it's funny for me. I started it off as sort of a show I could do in the background. The impetus of doing this show was I had done a different show for like 4 years, and John was involved in it. A couple other people were involved in it. I did a whole year, O Solo Mio. And I was like producing a whole extra year of that program that never got released. And I just remember being in a really negative headspace towards the end of production on that old show. And I remember saying to John, like, I just worry that, in my quest for artistic expression, it's ruining the relationships that I could have with people. And what John said to me was plain and simply, he goes, I think what you need to do is a show where you don't need to be reliant on others. And I think that's kind of what the gaming weekend is, but I also do enjoy having people there as well, like Nick and Rob, and it's been a blast doing the show. And now finally, like, what's funny for me is that I did this show as the most like afterthought, like, oh, I'm not gonna try to make this a big thing, I'm just gonna have fun and see where this goes. And look at that, by not actively seeking out a hit, it looks like we finally cracked the code on something that people enjoy watching and hopefully subscribing more to. I don't want to get a big ego and start going, oh, this is great, now we're going to make it to the top or anything. That's a bit too presumptuous. And it's too early in the game to call that anyway. But I am kind of glad now that this show is finally, after like a year, starting to get a little bit of traction. You spend... The thing for, like, what me and Nick have been through is that you spend, like, nearly a decade trying this, that, and this and that. And you know, inevitably, like, we would either, like, call a show off or it just wouldn't get off the ground. So I think we're all kind of dead chuffed that we seem to finally be get connecting with people, because that's what it's all about. You know, this whole YouTube thing is about the connections that you build with other people. You know, because to me, I've said this before, but in my mind, YouTube is at its best when it is a DIY artists collective. You know, and I'm certain that most of your favorite YouTubers either would not view themselves as artists or would be disdainful at the assertion that they have artistic value. Or maybe not disdainful, but certainly, like, they would be quick to go, oh, no, 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 no. But, you know, to me, there is sort of, like, the feeling of artistic expression definitely applies to this show and to other things I do. And for it to finally be reaching a point now where I think we feel like we're finally reaching people and actually connecting in some kinetic way is really, really gratifying. So I just want to thank you all for that. And with that said, I want to talk about this game now. Which, you know, the thing with Sonic Heroes, the thing with this game is that I remember saying when I was, you know, young or whatever, I remember saying that I felt that this game was pretty much on, you know, an underrated gem. And it's one of the more embarrassing things I think I've said in my life. But, you know, it's just one of those things where I am redubbing audio commentary because I didn't like how it came out the first go around, and I need to kind of fill in space. Because, okay, so then I also should burst the bubble a little bit. So I'm post-commentating once again because, well, as I've already said, I did the audio commentary on this video. I edited it. I put it all together. I pieced it together. It was all done and in the can. And then I finished it and I went, I'm not happy with this. I need to re-record it. So I'm basically taking the original gameplay audio that you know, this is all the original gameplay footage, which has been edited already, and it's been edited to accommodate commentary that you're no longer hearing, but now I just gotta really figure that out. I think maybe I might cut back into the old commentary here. I'm not sure, but I might, because I've now hit the 8.5 minute marker, and I've already run out of things to say. That seems to be the trend of this show. That seems to be the style is always, you know, I'll be able to say something for a good 10 minutes, and then inevitably I run out of things to say after that early 10 minutes, which is why I try to keep these videos at 10 minutes long. Because then at least I can do one video, tape it for 10 minutes, do my commentary for 10 minutes, and then be like, yep, that's it, that's done. Now I can, you know, come up with other things to talk about. And now that I'm post-commentating, and not only post-commentating, but redubbing an episode that already had commentary, I really gotta think over this. So I think, actually, why don't I talk about, in a more general sense, what I talked about in the early cut of this episode, which is my feelings on show business, which is to say the balancing act, the grand balancing act between show and business. Because no matter how much you try to deny it, there is a business angle to a show. And YouTube is interesting because I think the grand advancement of 21st century entertainment, let's put it that way, If we're not calling this art, then I would say let's call it entertainment. But the grand advancement of 21st century entertainment is that the borderline between the professional storyteller and the artist who creates it is slowly dissolving into a sort of metaphysical, kind of Truman Show-esque examination on people's own personal lives. And this has undeniably been pioneered by how YouTube has changed the algorithm on what it is people like to see and what they want to see. I think the most visceral level, I think what YouTube has given to the creators of now is this strange phenomenon where, unlike, say, Hollywood selling you television or movies or records or whatever, you know, even the highest quality art, if someone's making profit off of it, is product that someone is selling in some capacity. You know, unless, like, the work is being released completely for free, there is kinetically a feeling of, here is the art, and the art doubles as product that is to be sold. Now, that sounds cynical, but that's just how the industry of the entertainment business is you are inherently selling whatever the artistic statement is. Now, with YouTube, we find ourselves in an interesting dynamic, because what the majority of us are selling, to some degree, is this feeling of authenticity and intimacy. And I don't mean intimacy in a sort of relationship way. I mean intimacy in a kind of, you know, the feeling of you know us, or you think you know us. Now, mind you, there is a public image aspect to that, but the intrinsic idea that people are watching these videos for the sole intention of wanting to know the creator. And I relate to that highly. You know, that's actually why I went into the YouTube game, was because I really liked certain creators, and it was an interesting dynamic. It was unlike, say, when I listen to Beatles records, I'm always, like, stunned by just the production, the composition, the craftsmanship of how those four guys made as many brilliant records as they did. You know, it's an impressive thing. But when I watch, at least in my early days, when I would watch people like the Angry Video Game Nerd or the early incarnation of Game Grumps or stuff like that, what struck me as an audience member and as a viewer was this feeling that I wanted to know these people in a way that is unlike, like, I have no interest. Like, my favorite movie is Citizen Kane, right? And that was, like, the product of Orson Welles. But I really don't, like, I never had any interest in meeting Orson Welles. I never had any interest in, like, really picking Orson Welles' brain. Or, and this is slightly on a more personal level, but, like, say, the members of Monty Python. Now, Monty Python undoubtedly influenced a lot of my comedy. I mean, I remember watching Monty Python's Flying Circus for the first time when I was, like, I'd seen Holy Grail, but then when I saw the television series in, like, my early teens, it just blew my mind. I felt that I was watching something that was unlike anything I'd ever seen before, right? But I never felt intrinsically I want to meet the members of Monty Python. And, you know, that it explains why then I'm so, like, utterly starstruck if I end up in a scenario where I actually talk to a member of Monty Python and I'm like, holy hell, I never thought I'd be here. But, you know, like, I never would watch, like, a Monty Python thing and think, I want to really meet these people. It's always like, oh, that really impressed me, what they did. But when I would watch a creator like Markiplier, or in more recent terms, like when I watch, you know, people like The Odd Ones Out or Jaden Animations, there's something intrinsic in what they do where you're really sold on the personality of that person. And you kind of want to know them as people. And I think that's what YouTube has created, is this feeling of what the artistic product is now is sort of us, the creators. We aren't really creating professional stories. Some of us are. I mean, Nick does his videos and things like that, and they are, his own artistic statement. But, for the most part, I think what people are connecting with is the idea that, what is the Let's Play genre in and of itself? What people connect to with Let's Plays is the idea that, say, in a Battle for Bikini Bottom scenario, you're listening to audio of me, Nick, and Rob sitting on a futon in a, old, kids' room converted into a recording studio. And you're listening to us pretty much sitting on a futon, just joking around playing a video game. And that's intrinsically what you're listening to. And because of that kind of drop-in documentarian style of format, intrinsically, I think what people connect with is not just the humor, but the personality of the people who are playing the game. And that creates in and of itself this feeling of, God, I want to know these people. And maybe I'm reading, maybe using us as a, barometer of that is sort of selling us way too highly. But, we've created, the YouTube industry is such where what people attach themselves to is the authenticity of the creator themselves. And it's why you'll see me normally badmouth some of the more prominent people that put a lot of heavy production into their work. I'm not saying they're unentertaining to watch, but they don't inspire me the same way that the lower amateurs do. And I think that's a major important aspect to what makes YouTube at its best so wonderful, is the feeling that you almost feel like you know the person whose videos you're watching. And it becomes a fascinating dynamic in that we have to kind of figure out the blending, for creators it becomes an interesting dilemma, because you have to then decide for yourself what's the dividing line between your professional workload and your own personal life. Because when you make your personal life the crux of your business workload, it can actually become incredibly dehumanizing. And I think so far we've been able to avoid those pitfalls, which is very, very good. But it's an interesting dynamic with YouTube and how we sort of sell authenticity. Because, at its best, we can thank, certain commenters or subscribers or whatever for being great and, for their praises. But there will eventually be a point, if this show becomes successful, or Serenade of Caffeine becomes successful, or the label as a whole becomes successful, the inevitable thing, which would happen if it was to really garner that level of success, would be that the audience grows to a point where you just simply can't immediately connect to everyone watching your videos. And I would always have a hard time, coping with that. And I don't know if anyone else on the channel would, but I certainly would be like, oh no, what do I do here in this scenario? Because I would want to be able to have that one-on-one personal interaction with everyone who everyone who's watching the videos. And there reaches a level where you just simply can't do that. And, oh, God. So, this here, speaking of the game, to move away from these serious topics, so you're going to see here a whole lot of failure. And, so this is another classic video game trope of the floor is lava, rise to the top.
It's rising! Get to the top, quick! Leave this to me!
And then we leave it to Sonic, and then immediately he fails. Just completely disappointment into that splotch of red graphics, which is supposed to represent lava. And, you know, like, this is what I talk about when I say the game is somewhat broken, because there's just things that don't work, and this is an example of one of them. You'll see here, I have continual problems. Oh, okay. See, this is the bit where doing post-commentary doesn't completely work, because I brought the audio level up on that gameplay footage for a joke that I no longer remember. And even if I recited it, would no longer work, because I've post-commentated. Whatever joke I told before has no relevancy to what I'm talking about now, and this is the curse of redubbing your lines. But, you know, I had a point with the YouTube and the authenticity thing, and I don't know if I will have the time to really wrap a nice, tidy bow around it. I don't think the discussion has really been had out yet anyway. I guess all I would say is that, to me, it's a fascinating dynamic that I'm learning to cope with, and I think we're all, it's some level learning to cope with, which is that we are pretty much dealing with okay, so you see here how I keep clipping through this little grabber thing, and it's leading to my downfall. Yeah, and then eventual death. Just makes a little, you know, orgasm sound. I think I can get away with saying that. I know it's an E-rated video, but, you know, they said orgasm on Seinfeld, so I mean, like, that's the barometer. I'm like, if they said it on, I mean, I get Seinfeld wasn't a kid's show, but, like, yeah, I don't know. I'm leaving that in. I don't think orgasm is one of the naughty words. I think referencing sex is the thing that's bad, but, you know, I don't know. We'll say it's a PG. This is a PG video. Kids, this one episode of Sonic Heroes is rated PG. So get your parents' permission. Except not really, but, you know, if they guide you through the series, then that's what's important. And you're gonna see here, so I've been trying to get the keys to unlock the bonus levels to grab Chaos Emeralds. And in typical fashion for me, this is gonna be, I believe, the successful run where I actually do make it out of this lava room. And being who I am, I get knocked there and I will lose the key. And by this point, I stop trying because I think, well, I've lost the key, so a part of me kind of wants to lose this. And then you're going to watch and see how, of course, on the run where I lose the key, I make it up to the top. And you know, I had to give up the thing that could have helped me in order to, you know, yep, of course. Yes! So, I don't know, there's a lesson in this episode, and I don't know what it is. I think it was mainly just so I could keep the old title that I had for this video, because I didn't want to change it. And so, you know, I felt, well, okay, the old title was Show and Business, and I kind of want to keep that title, so let's just not change it, and we'll talk about different things relating to the title of this video. I don't foresee a time when I'm going to do this again, but anything's possible, really.
Gotcha, my darling Sonic.
Amy, what are you doing here?
Oh, no.
Sonic, this time there's no way out of marrying me.
Oh, no. Oh, a man wrote that line. A man definitely wrote that character. We've got a female hedgehog. What do? I know we'll make her obsessed with Sonic and forcing him into marriage. Because women, that's all they want, right? They just want to force the man into marriage. That's such a Hollywood male thing to write. And I get that these games are made between America and Japan, but either way, a guy definitely wrote the character of Amy. So this insanity, right? This broken insanity, which doesn't work and is a mess of gameplay, is instead of battling Eggman, which any other scenario would definitely be what happens, instead we are battling Team Rose in what I can only describe as a poor man's Super Smash Bros. Because this team battle is essentially you press random buttons and try to knock the other playable characters off of the edge of the map. And that is literally all that happens. And you're going to see here great advancements in failure as I try to just figure out what the strategy is. Because there is no strategy to this team battle mechanic. It is pretty much just press X and square wildly and hope that you make it through. So you're seeing here, I've already lost Sonic, but I have Tails and Knuckles, and I am pretty much just jumping and hitting square all the time. So I'm constantly launching Knuckles at whoever I can launch Knuckles at. And this is somehow or another going to win me this battle, even though most of the time I'm not even aiming, but I am somehow keeping up with Team Rose here. And then we gotta take out Big the Cat, and somehow that worked. I don't know how it worked, but it did. So anyway, I think that's a good place to stop. Oh yeah, okay, so hit the subscribe button, ding to be all. Hit the like button on the screen. There's the Gaming Weekend. There's Serenade Caffeine. And...
Sorry, but we're in a hurry.
oh yeah, just keep steamrolling them down. You can't stop them, Tails. You're on a mission.